Hello, I'm Andrew Howell from Environmental Defense Fund, and I'd like to talk to you about a source of risk that the financial sector is not paying enough attention to. It's a molecule that you can't see, but it has a very real impact on capturing heat in our atmosphere. I'm talking about methane, also known by its molecular name CH4. This invisible and odorless gas is 82 times more powerful than carbon dioxide at trapping heat over its first 20 years in the atmosphere. About a third of the warming experienced since the Industrial Revolution has been caused by methane. While carbon dioxide gets a lot of attention, it's important not to forget about methane. And there are good reasons not to. Countries and businesses around the world have started taking steps to pull back on methane emissions. And those that don't manage this pollutant are putting themselves at risk. Laggards could lose access to markets, fall behind their peers, and in some cases miss out on revenues. So let's get started. Managing methane risk starts with understanding where it comes from, and so begins our Methane360 journey. About 600 million tons of methane are emitted into the atmosphere each year, with human activity responsible for almost 2/3 of the total. There are 4 major methane sources. Let's get through them one by one. We'll start with methane from oil and gas, which makes up about 1/4 of human-caused methane pollution, or over 80 million tons per year. Methane is the main component of the natural gas we use for things like heating and electricity generation, and is emitted from oil and gas operations in a few different ways. The first is leaks from equipment such as valves, seals, and pipelines. Since methane is invisible, these can be hard to spot without detection equipment. Another is from the intentional venting of methane directly to the atmosphere. This can take place on a planned basis, for example, when pipes are emptied for repair, or can be an unplanned response to issues like pressure buildup in natural gas equipment. A third source of methane emissions is flaring, which is the intentional burning of natural gas, often as a byproduct of oil production when there aren't pipelines to carry away any associated gas. A lot can be done to reduce these emissions, often at a reasonable cost. Things like consistent monitoring, making use of evolving technologies from handheld cameras to drones to satellites. Companies also need programs such as leak detection and repair. Help is available to them from sources like the Oil and Gas Methane Partnership 2.0, which has over 150 oil and gas companies in over 80 countries as members. Next stop on our Methane360 journey is coal mine methane, the other major source from fossil fuels. Coal mining is estimated to emit about half as much methane as the oil and gas industry. Coal is a major source of warming when combusted, and it is being phased out in many markets, due in part to its higher cost and negative health impacts. For as long as coal remains in use, the associated methane emissions are a problem. When a coal seam is mined, methane trapped inside that coal can be released. Coal mine operators can reduce methane emissions in 2 main ways. They can drill boreholes to drain it from coal seam before mining, or in underground mines they can remove methane from the air using specialized equipment such as a thermal oxidizer. Today there are few incentives in place to encourage the coal industry to capture methane, so most of the time it is vented directly to the atmosphere. Fortunately, we are seeing signs that policymakers and businesses are becoming more aware of this issue. For the financial sector, engaging with coal mining and steel-making companies about their methane emissions is a way to manage environmental risk. The next stop on Methane360 brings us to livestock methane, which makes up about 1/3 of methane from human sources. Bacteria in the rumen of cows, sheep, and other livestock produce enteric methane, which comes out mostly through burps. Another source of livestock methane is manure, which emits methane when stored in manure lagoons and pits. Because cows emit a lot of methane, this means that methane can represent well over half of the climate impact of an average dairy or beef product. Another newer approach looks to introduce feed additives such as 3-NOP that reduce methane formation during digestion. There are encouraging signs that the food industry is getting more serious about addressing methane emissions, with the establishment of the Dairy Methane Action Alliance, trialing new reduction solutions, and improving modeling of methane through a supply chain. By engaging with portfolio companies on what they're doing, investors in agriculture and food companies can manage their risk exposure and be prepared for change within the industry. The last stop on our Methane360 tour is waste methane. Landfills and wastewater treatment facilities are also major sources of methane emissions from decomposing organic matter like food scraps and yard trimmings. Landfill methane can be reduced through strategies like composting, capturing landfill or wastewater gas for energy use, and improving facility design. Much more to be done here as well. There are a few other smaller sources of methane too, but the important message here is that for every source there are solutions, including both mature tested solutions and newer emerging approaches. Together, these can make a serious dent in this driver of climate pollution. And what about the financial sector? Well, it can engage with clients and portfolio companies on methane to encourage best practices that demonstrate strong management, provide a competitive edge, and protect market access for their products. Reducing methane pollution just makes sense from a financial perspective and for its climate impact. To learn more, visit EDF's Climate Insights Hub. Thanks for watching.